Rupa, let me turn to you because I know that you look very carefully at the social side of funding now, but you have deep institutional memory about, what's running through the financial system. Let me play the devil's advocate here and raise some of the concerns. Traditionally, the Reserve Bank has actually been seen as quite moderate in its approach, and they're going out and saying, look, this is how big the problem could get. Equally, this doesn't even cover the retail or the MSME segment and what's happening with medium and small enterprises. Are you concerned about what's happening in the broader economic space, and do you think the budget can do something to address that problem?
Mitali, I think it's very interesting because, before this year, the narrative used to be that the annual union budget should actually become a non-event. And the narrative was that all major policy announcements and all of that happened through the year. And the whole effort was towards making the entire budget exercise pretty much like a accounting report of the government. This year, what is very interesting is that I think the budget has become an event even before it is tabled. And the reason that is happening is because it is coming in the context of this really unprecedented pandemic and the situation it has created on the economic front. I think, wearing the hats that I do now, I do feel that there are three very important agendas for the budget to address. The first one is building back resilience in those segments of the economy and population that have been the most affected. And there, I think your point about MSMEs needs to be called out, because unless we and the point about the bottom 60% of India's income distribution, because this is the segment which is going to create the demand at the end of the day. And so I think the focus on building resilience is important. Secondly, I think the COVID pandemic has accelerated many trends which were anyway happening, but it has created, I think, a discontinuity in those trends. And I think one of those trends is the adoption of digital. If we can have initiatives in the budget that help our financial system and the banking system move to digital much more rapidly and in a much more discontinuous manner than was previously envisaged, I think we'll be doing ourselves a service, because as Ashish said, for 20 years now we are talking about the same issues, which is how many banks should we have, what is the right structure, etc. But globally, banks are becoming more and more disrupted. They are becoming back-end. The people who own the data, the people who own the customer are at the front end, and banks are moving towards becoming utilities. So can we look at basic structural changes which really leverage the trends that we are seeing? And the third thing I will say, and we can come back to this later, is that there are, there is liquidity, but there is also a tremendous amount of money waiting to come in to be much more socially conscious. So we are hearing a lot about ESG investing, SRI investing, the space that I am in, which is impact investing. And I think there are many things that can be done in the budget in terms of the range of instruments being made available, in terms of the fiscal incentives that are given, that can attract massive amounts of capital into businesses that are serving the lower middle income and the lower income populations. And I do think, again, as a part of building resilience, if the budget can focus on some measures there, and happy to dive into the details as we get into the conversation, I think that would be very good. So I think these, from where I sit, these are the three big imperatives, Mitali.